if you're concerned about, someone coming into your home to look at it to see how you live, you may not be the right tenant for us, because what we're looking for is not necessarily, if you were coming from a slum landlord, we would know that, right? Like the mold and things like that, the ceiling not being repaired, that has nothing to do with the tenant. That's with the landlord. Those are things that we would notice. And so we're not going to be having someone that is going to treat the property you live in like that in our rental. And so they disqualify themselves on that, because if you're not comfortable showing us your home, there's probably a reason why.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Sia Senior is a former math teacher that achieved financial freedom by investing in real estate. She empowers others to achieve the same through education and connections. Sia, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
The pleasure is mine. Sia, there are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on this show in 90 seconds or less. Can you tell me, where did you start? Where are you now? And how did you get there?
Oh, 90 seconds. So I started as a high school math teacher. I worked with my husband. We picked up our first rental, transitioning to be real estate agents. I did that, part-time while I was teaching full-time. We picked up enough rentals and enough, flips and things like that I was able in, 2015, so 10 years later, to go full-time into real estate. We continued to build our portfolio until we got, enough that we self-manage almost 30 units, along with joining other people in 2 years, last year, to pick up a 16-unit, joint venture in Tennessee. And so that's kind of where I am and quickly how I got there.
That's awesome. That was very, very quick. That's probably the fastest 90-second version I've gotten yet. No, I love that. Tell me this. I mean, it is one thing to be a high school math teacher, because that's what you're trained to do, is to teach high school math. And then it's an entirely different thing to say, not only am I going to start investing differently than everyone around me, but I'm also going to get involved in a career in an industry I know nothing about. Walk us through that process.
Yeah. So, I think what happened was, for us, it happened by chance. So we, working, my husband worked for the federal government as a contractor. So both of us W-2s, the regular, work every day, you save your money and you'll get there eventually. Right. And so when we first purchased our first home, we were like, wow, that agent made a lot of money real quick, and she didn't really do much. You know what I mean? She showed us a couple properties. No offense, but that's literally what happened. So
True.
We should do that too. So on the side, we became agents. And so we were doing that, getting income coming in, spurts of it. And decided for our house that we were living in, we were going to convert that to our first rental. So we moved out of our primary residence, made a new primary residence, and made that first property a rental. And we were seeing immediately, oh, wow, look at this cash flow that's coming from a house that we own. We have a low mortgage on it because we had lived in it before, right? And so the cash flow was doing really well. We're like, wow, this might work. This might work. And so we just started to, build up, buy more properties. We really worked on buying properties because we're in the DC area. So we bought properties that were in the Baltimore, DC area that were distressed. So, we fixed them up a little bit and were able to put people in them and get great cash flow. And so we just continued to do that. We did some flips in the DC area. It's a high appreciation area, so you can definitely force the value of the property once you fix it up. So we took that active income and we used it and transitioned it to buy more rentals so that we can continue to increase the passive income coming our way. So as we worked, and my husband actually, after 2 years of doing the flips and buying the real estate, he went full time. And so I stayed as a teacher 10 more years while he continued to focus in on finding the properties and taking out the residents and tenants and flipping. We did that so that we had a lot of active income coming and converting into passive income, which is why, in 2015, I was able to go, full time into real estate and manage the rentals.
That's awesome. 10 years is a long time to be sowing those seeds of residual income. That's right. What allowed you to say, all right, we're going to stay the course on this? Was there, tell me about that.
Well, I think for me, I could have done it sooner because we by that time in 10 years, we had probably maybe like 15 properties. So I probably could have done it sooner. But I wasn't necessarily ready to leave the golden handcuffs, as they say, right, of the W-2, the consistent income coming in. When you're flipping a property, when you're a real estate agent, even with the rentals, well, the rentals are pretty consistent if you buy it right, which we did. But with the active income from flips and, being a real estate agent, there's highs and lows. Sometimes you have a lot of money coming in, and then sometimes you don't have any, right? Feast and famine. So for me, I was really concerned as we started to grow our family that we always had something consistent like health insurance, because that could be very expensive, especially if something unforeseen happens, and so for me, I needed to be comfortable knowing that we had enough foundation that if something happened financially, we will be able to handle it. And so I could have left sooner, but I really just wanted to be confident that, we would be taken care of, if that makes sense.
Was there any confusion and or kind of awkward glances from your colleagues as you told them what you were doing and what your plan was?
Oh, I mean, all the time. They'd be like, why do you renters? Why do you have renters? Like, why are you doing that? Oh, aren't the tenants annoying? I don't think they call you at night and da, da, da. Which, I mean, if you handle it correctly, we are really good at communicating with our tenants. We were really good at, picking them well, right? So we're very upfront and communicate well about what the expectations are. And we do a good job of screening so that we don't have a lot of that. It took some time to get there, but by the time we had, 10 units, I had gotten enough bumps and bruises to figure out, okay, here's how you pick a tenant, here's how you don't pick a tenant. And so, by the time I was ready to leave, the last, let's say 3 years, I was preparing to leave, it was no big deal. I mean, I was able to do it on the side while I was teaching. So I knew that if I left teaching and all of the grading of the papers and dealing with students all the time, I would have more time to be able to even grow, which we did, because we definitely expanded and increased, our assets after I went full time into real estate.
Sure.
So, but yeah, there was definitely like, why would you leave this? This is easy. There's nothing to do, which it was. Teaching is, with it here and there, it's really, a great job to do. It's easy, it's fun, and it's fun, especially if you enjoy it. But just being able to control my time was much more important to me, and spending time with my kids, so that was much more important.
Fantastic. Sia, I've got a question for you on the picking your tenants well topic. You mentioned that. I want to hear what it is you feel like your secret sauce is that helps you do that.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think we've learned, when we first started out, we were definitely like, okay, we needed warm bodies. So, we were just so desperate to get people, especially when you have 1 or 2 units. The goal is to get somebody in there, get them paying. But what we come to realize is that, like, okay, just because they're one body and they might have what looks like a decent income coming in, if you're not really qualifying them overall, it really, you can't guarantee that, especially in some places that are not landlord friendly. Like Baltimore, which is in Maryland, isn't as landlord friendly as maybe some of the, locations in the South. And so it sometimes is a struggle to get them out. And so what we learned is that we really needed to, one, make sure we met with each prospective tenant that met our qualifications, that we communicated clearly what the expectations were, that we were consistent. So, we have a minimum credit score. We've got, how much we think you should be making in terms of income. We don't want people moving in and struggling to afford the rent. And so we're pretty conservative with that. And that helps us, because then if something happens, emergency, it's not choosing between eating and paying the rent, right? Like we don't want those kind of struggles for people. We don't want those for our tenants. And so, clarifying that, and making sure that we do a thorough background and credit check, which we didn't necessarily do in the beginning, again, but we do a quality thing. And what I also do, I think that really is helpful, is that when we pre-qualify them, so that we're not spending a lot of time showing everybody the property, we make sure that they've met the household income. We go meet them at the property, show it to them, or someone will show it to them, not necessarily us. Then we let them know, okay, before you apply, because now you like the property, that's great. Here are the qualifications that we're looking for. And so when you tell them that up front, they disqualify themselves. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, I definitely don't meet that. Oh, I don't meet that, and we don't have to worry about that. So we get leftover people who are pretty much right there. They want to be in the property. They've seen it. And we've met them. So we have a good idea about, like, are they the type of tenant that we could work with, and them for us as well. Right. And so that by that whole doing all of that up front and making it clear, it really just eliminates the people that would be difficult to work with, and that couldn't afford it and might run into something. So that's pretty much what we do. We also do a home visit. So we visit their current place of where they live. And I think that is the trigger too, because some people don't want us to come to their house. But think about it. Like, it's not like we're going to yay or nay you from the house, right? But in terms of like on the home visit. But if you're concerned about, someone coming into your home to look at it, to see how you live, you may not be the right tenant for us, because what we're looking for is not necessarily, if you were coming from a slum landlord, we would know that, right? Like the mold and things like that, the ceiling not being repaired, that has nothing to do with the tenant. That's with the landlord. But you keeping a place that has, like, there's crayons all over the wall, there's, it's not being kept up, there's holes punched in the wall that was clearly by someone's fist and not necessarily by, those are things that we would notice. And so we're not going to be having someone that is going to treat the property you live in like that in our rental. And so they disqualify themselves on that, because if you're not comfortable showing us your home, there's probably a reason why. And so we do that for everyone, and people who don't have a problem with it, it's no big deal, and they end up coming in, So
how do
I think that's our secret sauce.
No, I thought that's the first time I've heard that. I love that. How do you do that objectively so that you're not violating any fair housing law? And again, I don't even know what law there would be out there that would say, hey, you just didn't like because your house was
right.
Like how do you do that with a consistent scorecard that you can then put in the file and say, hey, I reviewed Sam's house, and yes, he has crayon on his wall, and like whatever it is, I don't know. Tell me.
Well, I'll tell you, because we give that up front to let people know. Every home that we've visited, no one's ever been disqualified on their home. So it's worked out, right? So the ones who have done those things, right? Like if you're a tenant that has destroyed your rental place where you live, you wouldn't let us in because you've destroyed it. If it has mold because of the landlord, you don't have a problem letting me in because it's not you, it's the landlord. And we would know that from seeing it. So we've never disqualified anyone on moving into the home visit.
That's brilliant. I love that because they've disqualified themselves when you say
they disqualified themselves. Yeah. And we tell them up front. So then we don't have to worry about that because, I'm proud. I'm a tenant. I'm proud of my home. I have no problem with it. Come and see. The ones that have destroyed it, they don't want us to see their house. They're like, no, we don't want a home visit. Okay. Well, that's everyone has this. It's everyone, every one of our tenants, we've had a home visit before. So we're being consistent. It's not like we're choosing whose house we go to. Everybody's house gets visited.
Right. Oh, that's really smart. If you're listening to this and you're wondering how to find a good tenant, there's a great screening feature that, I haven't quite heard before. I think that's really cool. Let's talk about scaling up your portfolio. I know you guys are working on some larger projects now, and tell me how you're doing that.
We, 2020, before 2020, we were trying to figure out how to scale because buying 1 or 2 or 4 units, at some point you're going to run out of either money or time or something like that. And so we knew the best way to do that would be to connect with other people. And so we joined a mentoring group that had people who were interested in scaling and doing commercial real estate. We networked for a while. We really got a handle on the underwriting for commercial properties because we could do, obviously, the underwriting for single family, 4 units and 2 units, small multis in our sleep. We had been doing it for 10 years plus. So we really wanted to be as educated as possible, particularly because when you're doing larger assets and we know we were going to be bringing in family, friends, and other investors, the last thing we want to do is lose our money and theirs. You know what I mean? So we took our time really just, networking with people and getting a good feel for what it meant to have a profitable multi-unit that was bigger than what we had been used to dealing with. And so we networked enough that we connect with some people, particularly through an underwriting group that I had been joining, for over a year, and network with some of the people there. And someone in the group found the 16 unit in Tennessee. And, we connected, we looked at underwriting, and it looked like a great investment. It's a 16 unit, a townhouse community. It was built by the seller who was selling it. It's about 20 so years old, and he was starting to offload all of his units. So he had a whole bunch and he was just letting them go. And so we were able to pick up that one. We got seller financing for 24 months, which is good, so we'll see how things go. I know the market's a little crazy now, but we've got some time, the rents were grossly under market, particularly because, he was on his way out. So he wasn't necessarily pushing rents and that kind of stuff. And so we've been able to really do a good job of, communicating with the tenants, first of all, and, making sure that no one was afraid of like new owners coming in and rents are going up, even though they were under market by like almost $400. So we've been working with them. The units that were opened, we were able to bring that up right away, doing minor details and minor upgrading to it. The other residents who were there, because of the type of people that we connected with that have the same value, we were able to work with them and slowly work on building up the rent increase. And so we were communicating with them. And so we didn't jump those rents up right away, but the goal is to do that. And we've communicated with them, and so they know what's coming. They also knew that they were dealing with a great asset where they had, under market rents, because when you looked around, they were sitting pretty. And so they recognized, what was happening, and we were communicating with them, which made it much easier to deal with, besides doing some upgrades to the outside of the property and making sure that, the issues they had were taken care of. So it's been really good so far.
Now, I mean, you may have said this and I may have missed it. Are you self-managing this property as well?
No, it's in Tennessee. And so, we self-manage in the DC area. So this one, because it's a joint venture, this is our first time doing a third party property manager. And we picked one of the top ones in the area. And so it's been great for me to be able to just, see, I guess, as an asset management side where I see someone else running the rentals and taking care of it, as opposed to, us doing it ourselves. And so it's been a great experience so far.
What have been some things as you interviewed your potential property management companies? What were some qualifiers and or disqualifiers that you used?
So I wasn't actually on the team that picked that group, but when we met as a team to discuss it, we definitely talked about making sure that we had someone that was really familiar in the area because of where it's located in Johnson City. It wasn't like, the DC area, Baltimore, big cities where you have lots of property managers, right?
You mean Johnson City, Tennessee is not DC?
Right. So we really had, I know, right? I know. So we had to really hone in on who were the top players in that area. And we went on referrals as well. We also looked at a national company that was going to be maybe putting some an asset manager or a property manager close by that would add on to our units, but we ultimately went with one of the top two that have been there for a while that know that area because, they're familiar with what the rents could be. When you come from the outside, there's not a lot of like Zillow and things like that to give you a good feel for what the rents are in the area. And so they had a good handle on it. And so for us, it was more important that we picked someone local that was really educated and had been in the community and could do a good job. And so that was pretty much what we chose, even though we had a couple other options to go with.
That's really cool. I love that. Rewind your journey over the last, gosh, I don't even know how long it's been, 15, call it years that you've been in real estate. What's one thing that you would do differently if you could?
Wow. I think probably we would start sooner with joining with other people. I think, it's been a great experience. And I think that, because we were focused on just doing ourselves and having our own portfolio that we're building, which we still are doing on the side, there's just a lot more fun with other people, and being able to scale quickly, could we buy some of the smaller, 10 units by ourselves? We could, but it's much more fun when you do with other people, you get different perspectives. And I think that's what I've enjoyed most about coming into this space where I get to hang out with other investors, right? And like-minded people. So I don't get the weird looks like I did from my former coworkers,
There is that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. So you'd go bigger sooner and really partner up with other people. Yeah. Which is a great way to scale. I mean, and for those of us who aren't looking to build out our own internal teams, joint venturing with other people with similar goals and objectives is it's a great way to take down projects and really expand your portfolio. That's absolutely awesome. What is one thing you feel like you've done really well that other people should emulate?
I think for me, what I've done really well is really worked well with the residents and tenants in the community. I think that has made a big difference on why we were able to, when the pandemic hit, we had all of our residents were taken care of. We worked with them because of our communication style with them and communicating with them. And so if they needed a couple months or a couple weeks or a month or two of working with them for the rents, we were able to do that with no problem. We lost only one tenant, meaning like during the entire, when there was lockdown, we had everyone, we were communicating with them except for one tenant who I didn't actually qualify the correct way. When I went back and looked at my stuff, I was like, oh man, I missed this. And so she was the only one that we ended up having to, evict from the property, but everyone else, was perfect. And I think that's because of the way that we connected with people and qualifying them in the beginning and then keeping the communication lines open. I wouldn't say they're family, but they're really, really close, friends. And I know what happens when they have kids, when someone passes away, the kids are married or going to college. And I think that has really helped us to work with, keeping our residents. We have a 95% renewal rate. And that's just because of our connections with them and communicating our expectations up front. And I think that helps us.
Wow, a 95% renewal rate. That's pretty remarkable. I do have, and I know we're talking about the positive side of things, so you guys have done that very, very well. But there's always things to learn. What was the one thing you missed in that tenant that you had to evict?
So for me, I think what we missed was I didn't look thoroughly at her background. Right. And so, I looked through it, but I think I gave a little bit too much leeway, and it can go either way. So sometimes you listen to the stories and you think, so for example, when you're looking at credit, and the credit history, there are things that might happen that cause you to get a lower score. Some things impact more than others. So not paying your student loans, yeah, that hits you really hard. But I mean, these college loans are $100,000. I mean, that's a lot of money. You know, I can understand why that would be. A medical issue hits your scores really low, but you're trying to live, you know. So those are things that we gave a little bit of benefit to, and didn't look necessarily at the other historical things that would give us an idea about her. So I even though my gut said no, I wanted to give her a little bit of grace, and I think I gave her a little too much grace, and that's fine, because you know, sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss.
Right.
More often than not, we hit, you know, and we provide second chances to those that need it because of life's craziness that happens. And I think that's why we're able to, you know, keep them so long.
For sure, and I love that. I mean, nobody gets it right every time, but you know, you guys are getting it right again. At least, well, again, 95% of the time, your tenants are coming back, and you want them to come back. So that's a pretty heroic effort there. Absolutely love it. Sia, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today and share with us your experience, how you've gone from a high school math teacher to being financially independent to owning a large portfolio of your own, and now how you're growing by joint venturing with other people in the industry. Certainly love it and appreciate you sharing with us your insights today. If our listeners want to get in touch with you and learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
Well, I think they can reach out to me at our website, arrowheadcap.com. We have lots of information there, resources, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So I enjoy, you know, bittering back and forth and talking to people there as well.
Fantastic. Sia, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.